Are we recording? We are recording. Hopefully this mic is working. I set it up to the laptop this time. As you can see, I have a different background once again. Not once again, but like so my family is they are moved in. They're moved in into into the new place. Helped them move over the past little while now. And so let's rock and roll. So let's double check here. We're going to go through. We're going to go through some ankle mobility, so you can kind of tell the overall theme for the past little while with our lives, just from having working with clients over the years and seeing what is lack of mobility or issues and progressing their fitness program. Right. So we had we talked about the shoulder rehab, shoulder mobility. We talked about the hip. We also did the 7 day sync from ankle to to this C spine, and through the mobility of everything and understanding the body mechanics of, or rather, understanding the mobility and also the range of emotions for certain body parts that are going to be vital for your workouts. And if you are limited or if you're feeling stuck in certain exercises and you just can't really it doesn't feel correct or it doesn't feel proper, right? So that is why in the day one den we go through the important aspects of exercise programming, but also too making sure that we are going through information that's going to be helpful for your to get back to running, to get back into your racket sports, or to improve your racket sports, or even just to improve your posture and energy, and all of course coinciding with with confidence, right? To making sure that we feel great, that we have proper sleeping, and that we are dealing with stress in a healthy manner, where we can show up in our day-to-day lives as the best person possible. And if I have ankle issues, we're going to go through ankle mobility today, right? So the ankle, as we know from the kinetic chain from the ground up, if I have issues in one spot, I'm going to either compensate to the non-injured side, and down the road we're going to create more issues, we're going to create more pain and more setbacks in our progress to fitness, to a progress to our fitness endeavor, right? So that's why we have to go, making sure that you are well aware of the exercises, and also too that you guys are coached properly, and you guys are having us FIGHTERFITX and the Day One Den community to make sure you are good to go, that you can tackle the Cayman Island running, right, or the East Vancouver running. But let's dive into it. So we're going to go through the Day One Den ankle mobility. So let's share the screen. We're going to go through. Is it that one? Is it that one? Or is it this one? That's the one. See, I'm getting better. I'm getting better at this. I'm getting better at navigating. Allow this time. Watch, I didn't hit record. I did hit record, right? Yeah. All right. Arthrokinematics. Arthrokinematics. Why your ankle mobility fix isn't working, right? If you've been smashing your calves and stretching your ankles for months without zero change in your squat depth, that's if you've been smashing your calves and stretching your ankles, calf muscles for months with zero change in your squat depth, you aren't dealing with a muscle problem. You're dealing with a joint clearance problem, right? So in this clip, show this a little video too as well, since we have time for it. So in this clip, we look at the posterior talar glide, right? So when your tibia, your shin bone, when you roundhouse kick someone right to the chops, it moves forward, your talus ankle bone has to slide back. If that glide fails, the bones collide, creating that pinching sensation in the anterior front of your ankle. So no amount of stretching will fix a bone-on-bone impingement. Right? So if you have that slight irritation or that slight pinching sensation on the front of your ankle, right? So that's what we have to address. We have to address with, with our pails and rails. We have to address with the active and passive stretching, but also lengthening in that deep lengthened position, strengthening in that position. Okay. So what's really happening? What's really happening? We have the 26-30 rule. Your foot has 26 bones and 30 joints. 26-30, 26 bones and 30 joints. If one isn't gliding, the whole system bleeds power. The whole system bleeds power, right? So, just for example, let's say, I was just hosing down, cleaning after the doggies, right? So if there's like little tiny tears in that hose, as that water is powering through, that water is going to leak. The hose is totally fine, but I'm just saying as an analogy here, to touch base with what we're talking about here. So if we have those power leaks, bone to bone, or just perhaps like we were talking about that muscle tear, with the cloth analogy in our last video with the shoulder tear, or rotator cuff tear rather, right? So it's just having these little issues in our joints and in our working with a certain exercise as the squat and the squat depth, and if our ankle doesn't have that proper dorsiflexion to get in that end range or that deep in squat position, we will I don't want to say suffer, but our power output or our depth of range to strengthen that muscle will hinder, right? So your foot has 26 bones and 30 joints. If one isn't gliding, the whole system bleeds power. It leaks power. We don't want that. We want to have power output for our high rocks training, for our perhaps powerlifting competition, for our roundhouse kick, right? The 70 degree big toe. Did you know? Did you know you need 70 degrees of big toe extension just to walk properly? So this is my picture of my thumb and my big toe. I need 70 degrees extension. So bring my big toe towards the roof, towards the ceiling. And if I don't have those 70 degrees, right? If you don't have it, your body shifts the load up to your knee and to your hip, right? So we always have to look at that train track. Hip, low back, right? Hip, low back. Anything, if there's a slight degree that's off kilter in our posture, or that we're tight, or if we have knots in our shoulder blades, or if we sleep improper, or if we're sitting at the desk, all of these will not provide, but all of these will lead to power leaks or kinetic leaks in our day-to-day lives and in our gym session. Okay, so if I don't have that 70 degrees ability to extend on my big toe, that's going to shift up the kinetic chain towards my knee into my hip, and then I have future problems and more issues down the road. And another thing too with running, pronation is a tool, not a disease. We've been told pronation. We've been told that pronation. We've been told that pronation is bad, but actually, it's how we reduce the force. It's how we reduce force. The problem is when you are trapped in it, right? So the three-step optimization. So you want to restore the glide. So you want to measure your dorsiflexion and clear the joint space. So isolate the triceps surae, target the gastroc and the soleus with specific leverage. Reactive plyometrics, train for sub 20-second ground contact times to turn that mobility into explosive power. So watch the breakdown above, and then as we go through, just a quick little video here. So I'm going to stop sharing this one, stop sharing this screen. What am I doing here? Stop sharing that one. Oh shit! Hope it's did I do that right or wrong? Yeah, let's see here. Oh, there we are. I got too many tabs happening here. So yeah, so we're going to go through a quick little video. Master mobility, PAILS. Nope. We are going where we're going here. Show the window. There we go. The forest bleed. That's on my iPad here. Let's hit that play button. You guys like my tone?
At the exact millisecond this athlete hits the ground, the knee collapses inward. This sheds power and places significant shear stress on the ligaments. A strength and conditioning coach watching this failure often diagnoses it as a primary hip or knee deficiency. They may prescribe months of isolated glute bridges and quad extensions. However, strengthening those proximal muscles fails to address the mechanical cause of the energy leak. The bottleneck of lower body power is often located distal to the knee. It is an architectural system comprising 26 individual bones and 30 distinct joints. Improving total body force output requires resolving the strict arthrokinematic constraints of this system. It demands isolating the correct biarticular tissues and matching exact neuromechanical loading parameters. Failing to account for these mechanics creates a systemic energy leak that can persist even as hip and knee strength increases. A prerequisite for optimal lower body movement is possessing 15 to 20 degrees of closed chain ankle dorsiflexion. We can objectively measure this capacity using the weight-bearing lunge test. Barefoot, the athlete drives their knee forward toward a wall. The knee must track over the second toe, and the heel must remain grounded. The target for proper kinetic function is a distance of 12 to 15 centimeters from the wall to the tip of the big toe. This is the specific arthrokinematic mechanism required. As the tibia shifts forward, the talus bone must slide posteriorly. When this posterior glide fails, the bones collide at the anterior joint line, creating a pinching sensation at the front of the ankle. Moving to the forefoot, the gait cycle requires another specific metric. During the toe-off phase, the first MTP joint at the base of the big toe must reach 70 degrees of extension. A deficit in either the talar glide or this toe extension prevents the foot from processing the load, shifting those mechanical forces upstream into the hip joint. Pronation is often treated as a pathology that must be corrected with rigid orthotics or arch supports. In reality, pronation is a dynamic mechanism. It is the primary way the body reduces force upon impacting the ground. Pronation involves a combination of three movements: eversion, dorsiflexion, and ankle abduction. To transition from force reduction into force production, the athlete must execute a counter movement, supination.
Sorry, guys. I'm gonna let that play. Herc, enough. Oh yeah. Okay, I see me in a second. I'm on the phone call. You sleep right there for now. Thank you. I'm here though. Thank you. Quiet, dog.
Restoring range of motion requires targeting the triceps surae based on their distinct anatomical profiles. The gastrocnemius is a biarticular, fast-twitch muscle that crosses the knee joint and assists in knee flexion. The soleus is a uniarticular, slow-twitch muscle that anchors below the knee and acts as the primary postural muscle of the lower leg. Due to these attachments, requires a bent knee. A common mechanical error when attempting to stretch either muscle is allowing the heel to lift off the floor. By elevating the heel, the tension shifts out of the target muscle and into the plantar fascia and Achilles tendon. There is a secondary barrier. The fast twitch fibers of the gastrocnemius trigger a reactive stretch reflex that fights the mobilization. Overriding that reflex requires a grounded heel and static tension held for 2 minutes. Because this can create acute joint laxity, it should be performed after training. Passive mobility must be neurologically cemented into the athlete's motor patterns to be useful. We train this active control through end-range isometrics at maximum dorsiflexion, forcing the anterior tibialis and the 4 layers of intrinsic foot musculature to stabilize the joint. Translating this structural integrity into power via plyometrics requires a highly specific programming timeline. Generating maximum force takes 0.3 of a second, but dynamic sports are faster. Agility movements require 1/4 of a second, and sprinting drops to 1/10 of a second. This narrow window requires reactive, short contact plyometrics. Structural changes to tendon stiffness take a minimum of 3 months of consistent loading. Failing to match training interventions to these specific ground contact times renders the resulting explosive output mechanically compromised. Stability is often misattributed to balancing on foam pads or Bosu balls. Stability is built through heavy axial loading, where the foot firmly grips a solid floor under immense pressure. The first step of optimization is measuring dorsiflexion and restoring the posterior talar glide. The second step is isolating the biarticular mechanics of the triceps surae using correct leverage. The final step is programming reactive plyometrics, tailored for sub 0.2 second ground contact times. When these protocols are stacked correctly, the athlete drives off the blocks with mechanical extension, transferring generated force into the ground. Mastering the arthrokinematics of the foot and ankle is the foundation for eliminating force bleeds and expressing an athlete's maximum output.
Beautiful stuff. Quick little video on that one, right on the telemetric side, and also understanding what angle and how to train to improve upon dorsiflexion and to understand PAILS and rails coming up. Let's see here. Stop sharing. What am I doing here? You are sharing. Stop sharing that window. Yeah, so like it's understanding also too, like being a personal trainer for all these years. I miss this. The PAILS and rails is more kinesiology material, but no, it's just as you can see, like we like me being personal trainer for 16, 17 years now, and also martial arts for the past 20, 43, so that's 22, 21 years, almost 22 years now, and I'm constantly learning and adapting to understand biomechanics for for any given sport. So with this PAILS and rails, I never really actually came across this terminology, and I love it. It's forcing me to look to really dive in to the program design for my clients, for you guys, but also to better understand and further develop the knowledge base of FIGHTERFITX for the Day One Den community. All right, so that little video is in the material that we've going through here, and going in for future iterations of the Day One Den is going to be great for you guys to expand, to learn. Herc, these little doggies. Anyways, go you guys being brat packs. All right, let me just show the screen real quick here. So PAILS and rails, a little terminology. I was like, what's the PAILS and rails? What are you talking about? So progressive angular isometric loading. So progressive angular isometric loading. Right. So this involves an isometric contraction of the tissues being lengthened, while at the end range of a stretch, you gradually ramp up tension by pushing against an immovable resistance. This builds cellular tolerance and strength in that lengthened position. So PAILS, progressive angular isometric loading, right? So you can see people on social media with the plyo box and a kettlebell for the inner thigh. You can see a hamstring stretch against a bench, and the one foot's laying off, and you're applying pressure down on the hamstring and also leaning forward. All right, so there is also the regressive angular isometric loading, so rails. So this involves an isometric contraction of the tissues being shortened. From that same end range position, you engage the muscles on the closing side of the joint to pull yourself deeper into the range. This teaches the nervous system to actively control and inhabit the new space. So, in the context of the ankle, the PAILS contraction targets the calf and Achilles under tension, while the rails regressive contraction hits the tibialis anterior to clear the joint and increase dorsiflexion. To increase dorsiflexion, to get in more of a depth squat, to improve upon ground force reaction in your sprinting drills, and to your lateral movement for angular cuts in football, lateral movement explosiveness in pickleball. All right. Yeah, so remember again, so what's really happening is 2630, your foot has 26 bones and 30 joints. If one isn't gliding, the whole system bleeds power. And if we don't address these issues head on with our pails and rails, with our intention inside the gym or inside your home gym, with these exercises that I'm about to show you, we will limit or lengthen our fitness journey. Now let's see here. You are sharing your screen. Oops. Stop sharing. Right. So again, the vital information to address new concepts and new key concepts for your workout program and for me to coach you guys, for us to coach you guys. Now, so to go through the day one den specialist with our assistant coach. Our assistant coach here, right? So in regards to what we were just talking about, the arthrokinematics, why your ankle mobility fix isn't working. All right, so I want to touch base on what we just talked about in that video, and also there's a little bit of other information that I put in base for you guys as well too. I'll post after. Right, so the distal bottleneck is where elite movement goes to die. If the talus does not glide posteriorly, the tibia cannot migrate anteriorly. This mechanical block creates an anterior joint line impingement that manifests as tightness, but no amount of stretching the Achilles will solve a bone-on-bone clearance issue. We are here to restore the arthrokinematics of the ankle to ensure force is transferred, not leaked. Right. So again, so like in that video, we're talking about we addressed that dorsiflexion measurement. So before we load, we audit. The 5-inch wall test identifies the presence of a mechanical block or soft tissue restriction. Right. So we kind of in the video we already addressed that. Right. So where to feel it once we do this 5-inch wall test? Where to feel it? A stretch in the calf suggests a soft tissue restriction. A pinch or a block in the front of the ankle confirms talar glide deficient. Okay, so that's what if you feel in the front, that pinching feel, that's when you know, okay, we have to really dive into this and really address it. So common mistakes is allowing the arch to collapse, pronation to cheat the distance, or letting the heel leave the floor. Right, so we want to really make sure on that common mistake that we don't pronate and we don't allow our heel to lift, plantarflexion to lift up, to raise your heels, to cheat the test. So none of that. So the clearance, posterior talar glide mobilization. To clear the anterior impingement, we must manually encourage the talus to slide backward as the tibia moves forward. Half kneeling position, your hand between your thumb, index, directly on the neck of the talus, just below the ankle bones, apply a firm posterior pressure on the talus while simultaneously driving the knee forward over the toes. Where to feel this one? Where to feel the posterior talar glide mobilization? A reduction in the pinching sensation at the front of the ankle. That's where you want to feel it, a reduction. Common mistake, pressing on the tibia shin bone instead of the talus. You must be below the joint line. And activation. So we have activation, clearance, right? Assessment. So neurological cementing. Now that we have cleared the space, we must teach the nervous system to control it using the PAILS rails and intrinsic foot engagement. So this is the PAILS, rails end range isometrics. Find your end range dorsiflexion in half kneeling position. This is the PAILS, progressive. Slowly ramp up effort by pushing the ball of your foot into the floor, trying to gas pedal without moving the ankle. Hold 10 seconds at 80% tension. Now we have rails, regressive. Immediately attempt to pull your toes and top of the foot toward your shin using the tibialis anterior to pull yourself deeper into the end range or into the range. Hold for 10 seconds and repeat for 3 rounds. So this is the activation, the neurological cementing, right? So this is where we want to fine tune and really put into play what we've just done to prime the ankle and the muscles and the joints. Now we have the intrinsic short foot activation. So while standing, spread your toes wide. Press the first MTP, the big toe knuckle, into the floor, your big toe into the floor, and pull it toward your heel without curling your toes. So this is where you're creating almost like a suction cup. So this creates a dome in the arch. You want to hold for 5 seconds, 10 repetitions. So where to feel it? Intense cramping in the shin, rails, and the arch of the foot. So the common mistake is curling the toes during the short foot maneuver. This indicates overactive extrinsic flexors. Great, now we have the load, the Triceps Surae Differentiation. We must address the gastroc and soleus independently to ensure the entire posterior chain is capable of managing the newly acquired range. The Gastric Load, so straight knee. Perform a single leg calf raise with a 3-second eccentric lowering phase. Eccentric is always the return position. Keep the knee locked to prioritize the gastroc. So focus on the peak contraction at the top, ensuring 70 degrees of first MTP extension, big toe, and 2 sets of 15 reps. The soleus load. Now we have the bent knee, soleus. Okay, so we have that. Drop into deep crouch position or a wall sit calf raise. With the knees bent to at least 45 degrees, perform calf raises. The bent knee slackens the gastroc, forcing the soleus to handle the load. Right, 2 sets of 20 reps. Where to feel it, high calf for the gastroc, but deep lower calf Achilles region for the soleus. Common mistakes. Bouncing at the bottom. Use a dead stop to eliminate the stretch reflex. Now we have reactive power and reducing force bleed. If you cannot transition from eccentric to concentric in under 0.20 seconds, 20 seconds, you are leaking energy, as we heard in the video. We finish with short contact reactive drills. So we have low amplitude pogos. Bouncing. Stay on the balls of your feet. Knees are stiff, but not locked. We never want to lock your joint. Perform rapid vertical hops, focusing on minimal ground contact time. So that's the pogos. Then we have a lateral bound to stick. Explode laterally, landing on one foot. Freeze the landing instantly using the intrinsic foot strength and tibialis anterior to stabilize. Now make sure, remember we talked about this before, about knee valgus, where we are going to do that lateral bound movement, but we don't want our medial side of the knee to trail in. You want to stick that landing, be nice and vertical with that plumb line. We mentioned this before. So postural recovery. Again, diaphragmatic breathing. Okay, so you always want to have that breathing go through the lateral bound to the explosive, not necessarily explosive power, but that stabilizing component to it. All right. So there we go. Yeah. So quick little quick little run through on, the PAILS and rails, dorsiflexion, ankle mobility, stability. If you're having a pinching sensation on the front of your ankle and how to address it, of course, with anything, this is a case by case basis, and you want to make sure there is not in the sense of absolutes, right? You always want to make sure that there is not necessarily a best, worst. Well, I should say, what is, you always can get questions as a personal trainer. What's the best exercise for this, this, and that, right? It is what is the most beneficial for that given person and their current mobility, strength, tendon strength, injury history, diet, stress, right? So I know we try to say, to encourage clients, to encourage new people, that fitness does not have to be very confusing. Yet, we have a lot of things that do come into play when it comes to progressive uh, overload with or even understanding fitness. Doing one thing at a time and addressing just like a journey, just like you're going on a walkway path or running or up a mountain. You each individual have a different mountain to tackle depending on current capabilities, uh, all mindset as well too. That's why we deep dive all these other aspects and of fitness and wellness in the day one den is because time and time again working with clients we come across barriers or obstacles, and being on your own it is definitely challenging to get through or to go through. And from my experience when working with clients and talking with clients firsthand in person is understanding like this journey that we are on, if I can't do a depth squat and if I'm listening to you know a influential fitness influencer, and they're saying do this and that in their video or in their upload or in their presentation or in their PDF exercise booklet or their app even, and they're suggesting to get into this depth range and to force it, or not necessarily force it, but me talking with clients saying like buying into a workout routine, the booty building routine from this, fitness influencer, and following along with the videos of said influencer, and they're in that different position, or they have a really depth squat or deep squat, and a client can't get into that deep squat and not knowing how to properly do it or properly feel it, or if they feel it in their back or their hamstrings not activating or their glutes not activating in a certain exercise, and they feel frustrated. It's not necessarily, I'm not saying bad for the fitness influencer, but what I'm saying is to address these issues with coaching remotely is we need that feedback, that in-person feedback of video coaching, of talking to clients and making sure that we have that the video analysis to understand of, okay, well, you're overpronating in a certain position, your knee is caving inwards on that reverse lunge on the left side, and now you want to do a kettlebell double goblet or double-handed or racked position squat to overhead press, yet your ankle can't even hold your own body weight and you're doing a power snatch. Or if you don't have necessarily dorsiflexion for that sled pull or that sled push, and you have shoulder issues, you could be having a tight mid back, mid rhomboids, or super tight as a tight knot. And yet you're still going through and you're powering through it, thinking that, oh, maybe I'm just sore from the workouts. However, if we actually look at your posture and we look at your bent over row and your low back, anterior tilted, posterior tilt, and you don't see that, you don't know that, you don't understand how that is. And that's why we have to is once we hire a personal trainer with experience, because they can see that first off right from the get-go. And that is why we have to I'm not really into the social media aspect game of like having thousands of followers and going through that. Yet in person, with my clients for all these years, I can see and address it through experience from working with clients, for a multitude of fitness levels, right? And I just feel not I feel sad. Clients are going through this and they keep hitting roadblocks and obstacles, and they think that they can't do it. They haven't found the right path. They haven't found the right journey to have a guide with them. All right, so that's what I'm trying to say in this day one den with the ankle mobility. All right, so be safe, be cool. I was trying to keep it to half hour increments, and making sure that I get the information for you guys to so you guys are safe and sound going to the gym, going on the hike, doing the grouse grind in Vancouver, going on the run in the Cayman Islands here. All right, so be safe, be cool. Day one den specialist, touch base, video analysis, lock it in. People on live, lock it in. Right, 7-day trial. Uh, get access to the open gym, Fighter Fit Athletics, Day One Den on the school platform. Be safe, be cool. I am flying.